All right, well, good Monday evening, New York Jet fans and NFL fans. It is December 19th, 2022, 5:16 p.m., and we are one game away from ending Week 15 of the 2022-2023 season, where tonight Green Bay and the Los Angeles Rams will face each other. Uh, Listen, a lot of disappointment yesterday. Yes, definitely. A lot to talk about. Quickly run down some games. First of all, Saturday, three games. It was great to have three games on Saturday. I watched some of the first game and some of the last game. First game, Colts had a 33 and I think a 36 nothing lead. It was 33 nothing at the half. They lost to Minnesota in overtime. Minnesota came all the way back and beat them in overtime. Minnesota is going to be the weakest 11-3 team I've ever seen. But hey, they're 11-3. I would take that. I'd take weak wins over strong losses. We don't even have strong losses. Then you have the middle game, which was the Ravens and the Browns. The Ravens, of course, didn't have Lamar Jackson, and the Browns wound up beating them. Deshaun Watson wound up beating them. Then at night, you had Miami in Buffalo. This game was supposed to be a blizzard, 3 feet of snow, just torrential snow and wind and whatnot. And it really wasn't that bad. Before the game, yeah, they had a ton of snow. They cleared it out. And then towards the end of the game, it started snowing again. It got windy again. But other than that, really not that big of a deal. Miami had a lead late in this game and then wound up losing it. So Buffalo clinched a playoff spot. Miami falls to I think 8-6, and they only had a game on the Jets. Actually, half a game because the Jets have the tiebreaker right now, and you kind of felt good. But let's continue on with some of the other endings. You have Jacksonville Jaguars beating the Dallas Cowboys in overtime. Trevor Lawrence throws for four TDs, gets them back, and then Dak Prescott, I'm sorry, throws a pick six in overtime. You have, I'm trying to think of last night, the Giants in Washington. Uh, Washington had a goal to go, last play, and what looked like a pass interference in the end zone was not called. Game over. Giants win. Giants right now hold a playoff position with the Redskins. They both hold wild card positions. Get home from the Jet game, and I'm watching the um, Chargers and the Raiders, and going back and forth, back and forth. I'm sorry, not the Chargers and the Raiders. Um, the Chargers and the Titans. Game is tied 14-14. Looks like I'm going to overtime. And uh, Abear just throws a bullet down the line, down the sideline, caught, tightrope, gets him in field goal range, and the Chargers went up winning. So you're like, all right. And then you get the Patriot Raider game. And as you're a Jet fan, you want the Raiders to win. And it's going back and forth. The Raiders are up, then the Patriots are up. The Raiders wind up taking the lead. Um, then it gets tied, and you're like, all right, so there's no time left on the clock, really. One last play. You're figuring they're going into overtime. The the Patriots run a play, and they pick up a little steam, and Jacoby Myers thinks now it's a good idea that he's going to lateral the ball back. Now, I want everybody to realize this. I don't know if you saw this. There's no way, even if they got the ball to field goal range, you can't kick field goal. Time ran out. Okay. He throws it back. It is picked off by the former Patriot. I can't think of his name, the defensive player. He starts running downfield. Mac Jones attempts to tackle him, and he just barrels through Mac Jones. And they score a touchdown, and they win with no time left on the clock. My first thought was Bill Belichick is going to blow a gasket. So those are the crazy finishes yesterday. Um, you had KC that had a battle back. Um, just it was an awkward week of games. But let's talk about the Jets and what's going on there. So all right, so Mike White was ruled unable to play due to his injury. He couldn't have any contact, which is good because Zach was under a lot of pressure yesterday. So get to the stadium, and it's the first game home since the Bears game, which was the 27th of November. So you had 2 weeks after the Mike White win. They almost pulled it off in Minnesota with the Berrios drop. They almost beat Buffalo last week. You had the Mosley offsides, what have you. And you're like, all right, Lions on the thing, on the schedule. And let's not underestimate the Lions. The Lions started off 1-5, and before yesterday won 5 out of 6. So they were 6-6 going into yesterday. Not a great defense, but their offense is producing. People had their Zach jerseys on yesterday. People were out there to support Zach. I was out there to support Zach. I did not want to see him do bad. I'm rooting for the green and white. I'm rooting for the Jets. I'm not rooting for any particular player. I'm just kind of watching the Giant game in the background here on NFL Network. For a December game, the last home Sunday game, all it was cold. Sun was out, basically, not windy, really. Typical Meadowlands winds. The atmosphere was dull. First of all, the second level, most of it was empty. The third level, most of it was empty. Lower bowl was filled. You did have a handful of Lions fans. Now, it wasn't like the Patriot game. It wasn't like the Bills game. But you had a few thousand Lions fans. And, you could say, how are they Lions fans? But, how are you Jet fans? I mean, you just root for the team that you love. So, game starts, and, we're watching warm-ups, and Zach is out there, and the defense looks really good, and Quinn Williams, a game-time decision, is not going to play. You're like, all right, Lions aren't that good. You get away with a low-scoring game. Zach doesn't turn the ball over. Let's get out of here with the W. Let's move on to Thursday. Meanwhile, you're watching the scoreboard, and Jacksonville's coming back on the Cowboys, and you're thinking, what do we have in store for us on Thursday? So the Jets win the toss, and they defer. Now, the funny thing is, listening to the radio this week, a lot of people, but what I heard was people say, or commentators say, if you win the toss, don't defer. Put the ball in Zach's hand, show him you're behind him, go down the field, put some points on the board, then put the defense out there. Well, they deferred. I don't mind. I like getting the ball to start the second half. They defer. They go downfield on us, but then they're forced to punt. So we get the ball back, and Zach goes 3 and out. First of all, we get the punt on like the 1 yard line or the 2 yard line. And the first thing I do is I turn to the guy behind me and I go, Zach's got to go 99 yards. If he does this place will just erupt. They'll be behind him. Well, first play is a run, basically just got out of the end zone. Second play, incomplete pass. Really wasn't on Zach. Third play, 3 and out. Okay, they got a punt. They punt, short punt, brought to the house for a touchdown. So you went from deferring, they went down the field, you stopped them, you got the ball back, you went 3 plays, you punted, they scored. Get the ball back. Throughout the game, offensive line was terrible. Could not get a running game, could not give Zach any protection. Basically, the Lions packed the box, and they said Zach Wilson's going to beat us in the air if they're going to beat us. If you look at Zach's numbers, okay, and I'm going to pull up Zach's numbers right now. Zach was 18 of 35 for 317, two touchdowns, and an INT. Both touchdowns went to the tight end Uzuma. INT, I mean, he just threw right up in the air, looked like a rainbow, and I knew it was going to be picked off. That cost him 3 points. And you could say there's a difference in the game, but the difference in the game was lack of execution on all parts. I'm talking the special teams, I'm talking the defense, I'm talking the offense, I'm talking the coaching. Okay. There were times where Zach extended the plays, threw the ball downfield, picked up big yardage. There were times when Zach couldn't hit water if he was jumping off a boat. There were times when Zach led the receiver, and the receiver looked like he slowed up. There were a few times that Garrett Wilson, going over the middle, kind of slowed up. There were a few times that Garrett Wilson showed his frustration. Early in the game, Mims caught a big pass for a first down, got knocked out with a concussion. So it was not good. You had Smith, like a fourth or number 5 receiver, being like one of the primary targets. You had Berrios on a few plays, but again, Berrios, his stock has dropped significantly from that Minnesota game on, between special teams and drop passes and whatnot. Zach on a few plays, had the little check down, he underthrew it. A lot of times he was under pressure. Of the 18 completions, somebody said today 6 were big plays. Yeah, I remember 5 or 6 big plays. Um, just couldn't get it done. They finally get into the end zone. They tie the game with the Uzuma touchdown on a big pass by him, and then they get a first and goal after a big catch by Garrett Wilson. That was also a defensive pass interference. They get 2-1, and on a quarterback sneak, it looks like Zach got in. Touchdown called. It's going to be reviewed. They review it, and you can see that his elbow's down. The ball doesn't get in before he crosses the plane. So now it's third down, and I'm like, I turn around, and they go, the guy behind me goes, "Is this 2-down territory?" And I'm like, his father goes, "Yeah, go for the touchdown. I don't want to stay for overtime." The next play, beautifully drawn play, um, they do a play action. The Zuma comes off the right side of Zach, wide open in the end zone. That ball was a little toss. Looked like it was there for an hour. Run it in, catch the extra point, and the Jets now up by 4. Like, okay, about 4 minutes to go. Place now starting to make some noise. Um, the ironic thing about it was throughout the game, they do the t-shirt toss, they do the dance cam, they do everything in third down, get up, and somebody said for a team that's in a playoff hunt but a home game and very close in this game, this crowd is dead. There was no noise. There was no noise. I mean, he actually was like, it was almost like not a home game for the Lions in terms of fans, but when they were on offense and we were on defense, it really was not loud at all. But anyway, we kick off to the Lions, and they're kind of moving the ball. And with just over 2 minutes or so, I want to say 2 minutes. Maybe it was around a 2 minute warning. It was a 2 minute warning. They have a 4th and 1 at the 49-yard line. Their own 49, so they're on their side of the field. 4th and 1, and you gotta, I'm saying, stay on sides. Don't give up the first down. Don't give them a stupid penalty. Stay on sides. And the play call was amazing. Everything went up the middle and to the left. The tight end came out of nowhere to the right. I'm sorry, everything went up to the middle and to the right. The tight end came out of the right to the left. Nobody covering the left side. He catches a pass. As soon as he caught the pass, it was a first down. And he rumbles and beats 3 Jet defenders 51 yards. Probably the slowest guy in the stadium, slower than the security guard that, sits outside the guest services. And stunned disbelief. Stunned disbelief. My first thought was, if you catch him, all right, the game's going to be tied. We're going to go to OT. We're going to get the ball back with the ball tied. And it was just deflating. So they kick off to the Jets. They have a minute 53, 3 timeouts. Okay? They're down by 3. You're looking at, okay, we take a shot for a win. If not, if you're in field goal range, you get the tie, go on to overtime, anything could happen. First play, Zach is sacked. Then he makes a few nice plays. He makes a few passes. He hits Garrett Wilson down the side. Tremendous catch by Garrett Wilson. And instead of calling timeout, they have 3 timeouts. They lose about 25 seconds. I don't know why. The stadium is screaming. The fans are screaming. At one point today, I read Garrett Wilson actually said that he tried to call timeout, but somebody told him that a player can't call it, only the sideline can call it. I'm not sure if only a quarterback can call it. I mean, that's a rule I'd love to see. I'd love to know. But he doesn't get to call timeout. It comes down to, I want to say, 19 seconds. Gets another playoff, and I think they called timeout. Now there's like 9 seconds left, and you're trying to get in the field goal range. Zach is under, and at this point now, I'm walking up the stairs because I know it's going to end on this play. It's third down. It's going to end on this play, um, and they snap the ball, and Zach is under pressure, and Zach turns to the right, and Zach turns to the left, and Zach runs, and Zach is pursued, and Zach lets one go, and Corey Davis hauls it in across the 50. I'm sorry, not Corey Davis, Elijah Moore. Makes a nice catch. Zach puts the ball, threw up a prayer, but he caught it. Instead of running to the sidelines, instead of running inside to pick up more yards, he ran backwards to try to get to the sidelines. Wasted probably a good 3 or 4 seconds. Jets called timeout. Clock hit 0. Announcement comes up as I get to the top of the stairs with my girls that there's a second left on the clock. Now, before I get into what happens next, I just want to point out 2 things. First of all, it's a 58-yard attempt with Greg the Leg Zuerlein. Okay. The Jets had a minute 53 and 3 timeouts. Now they had 1 second, and I think 2 timeouts left. 58-yard attempt. If they would have managed the clock the way they had to manage the clock, the correct way, they probably would have had a first down and probably would have had 15 or 20 seconds on that clock. And if they have to pick up 5, 10 more yards to make it a more manageable kick, they could do it. But the clock mismanagement by the sidelines and by Zach, I'm gonna throw it at Saleh and Zach. The first thing I would have thought of was when that pass is completed and Elijah Moore hits the ground, somebody calls timeout. Nobody did. I'm sorry, not Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson. Nobody did. Okay? So keep that in mind. They line up for a 58-yarder, and I'm thinking, all right, Greg the Leg, he's hit from 60, but this is outside. He had the distance. He just hooked it left. As soon as he kicked it, I knew it. He missed it, and 65,000 people, 70,000 people walk out. Go back after the game. They asked Coach Saleh about the timeout, and he said that calling the timeout was not part of what they wanted to do there, but he looked at the tape, whatnot. Last night, it was reported. I'm not going to give credit to anybody because I forgot who it was. That the reason why he did not call timeout was because they didn't want to review the Garrett Wilson catch a few plays earlier. Now, it looked like a clean catch to me, but what I've heard this morning was he was close to the first down. So instead of having it reviewed, it would have been whatever down and a half a yard or a yard. They sacrificed 20 seconds to get that play off. And that sacrificed the whole game and possibly the whole season. Terrible. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't know if Mike White plays, how the game turns out, because offensive line was terrible, couldn't run the ball. But maybe they don't stack the box if Mike White's there. That's number 1. Number 2, without Quentin Williams, this defense looks very, very vulnerable up front and at the linebacker side. I don't think they had 1 sack. I don't think they had many pressures. Running backs were getting 4 yards, 3 yards, 6 yards at a chop. This game, punt return for a touchdown. It's a terrible game to lose. And now you have to think you were 6-3 at one point. Now you're 7-7. So in the last 4 games, you won 1, and that was against the Bears. Okay, without Justin Fields in the rain with Mike White. Now you have a short week. Right now, I think Zach Wilson's going to be the starter. There's been no real medical clearance reported yet. I think it's going to be tomorrow that they do report that because the game is Thursday. So you have Zach Wilson in what may be a nor'easter hitting the East Rutherford and the area. It's supposed to be periods of rain all day, windy, cold. Up in Rutherford, probably some snow and some ice. Okay. So that's the game we're looking ahead to. Yesterday was not Zach's fault. They did not lose because of Zach, but they were not put in a winning position because of Zach. He needs to make plays, and he doesn't. He can't make the easy passes. There was a few plays where I keep saying Corey Davis, where Elijah Moore is behind the secondary, and he just doesn't see him, and he goes to the easier pass, and that's fine. You want to make the passing, but sooner or later you're gonna have to make, that pass. You're gonna have to take that shot, and I don't think he has the confidence. Um, there were times on the field where Garrett Wilson would throw his hands up in the air. You could see they were upset, um, and that was reported as well. But there was also a video that they showed Garrett Wilson hugging Zach Wilson and kind of patting him on the head, and I don't know what he was saying to him, but I don't know what's going on in that locker room. The dysfunction of this team, it baffles my mind. There's always something going on with this Jet team. Whether it was under Bruce Coslett, under Pete Carroll, under Rich Kotite, you know, he didn't have much under Parcells. We didn't hear about it. Al Groh, they couldn't stand. Herm, he didn't have many issues. Like, he didn't have problems in the locker room. Um, but with Rex, you had Animal House. With Todd Bowles, you had Smith getting laid out by one of his players, and now you have this where I think the players have more confidence in Mike White, and so does the fan base right now, and that I think goes out onto the field, and you have Zach who's not confident, and then you have the players who are not confident with him, and it just is not a good formula. Um, they had the AFC East and playoffs 3 weeks ago at their mercy. They beat New England one time. It's a different story. They beat Minnesota. Berrios holds onto that ball. It's a different story. Mosley stays on side last week. Maybe it's a different story. And right now, it's the same old story. Jets are probably not going to make the playoffs. This will be the 13th season in a row. Like I said, they're 7-7, and you know what? You don't know what they're going to do with Zach Wilson. From what I can see, Zach Wilson will be a game manager at best, and possibly that'll take 2 more years for him to develop to. Um, this offensive line was like a mash unit, a turnstile of guys getting hurt, and then a turnstile of guys getting past the tackles to get to the quarterback. Um, the wide receivers, you had Corey Davis go down. You had Elijah Moore that wanted to be traded. Denzel Mims that wanted to be traded. Denzel Mims that wasn't active. I mean, it's just been a whole story. For the most part, I thought Saleh did a good job this year. Um, I am questioning a lot of things that he's doing, um, and I get that from looking at he's repeating some mistakes. Um, I do think he is a good coach or will be a good coach. I do want to see him gone from this team, but the organization right now, in the next 3 weeks, has to make the decision of are we going forward with this team and building around Zach Wilson. Um, and I'll get into that more as the season progresses. The Jets have 3 games left. Um, they start Thursday against Jacksonville, which should be a winnable game, but the Lions game should have been winnable. So right now you cannot take any game for granted. You got to take this game. They have to go out and win. They got to start winning. It'll be their last home game, but again, the elements will not be in their favor. Won't be in Jacksonville's favor either. So the first thing in order to do is to win Thursday. You have 10 days to get to Seattle, and then you play Seattle and Miami, and you got to hope. Right now, I think they were showing percentages. If the Jets win out, there's a 90-something% chance that they're in. If the Jets go 2-1, and their one loss is against Seattle, I think it's a a 60-something% chance. I'd be lying if I told you. And then if they go 2-1 in their losses against Miami, I think it's like a 13% or 6% chance that they're in. So they're not mathematically eliminated. They could run the table. A few things, and I'm a guy who always reminisces. So you go back to 2002, the Jets were 7-7, and they wound up winning the AFC East 9-7 on December 26th against the Green Bay Packers. That was a game where Miami and New England played each other, and New England beat Miami, and the Jets had to play Green Bay. Green Bay was a late game, and they wound up beating the Packers and Brett Favre, and they made the playoffs, won the AFC East. 2009, December 20th, Week 15, the same thing. Week 15 with 02, Week 15 and 09. Jets lose to Atlanta in snow. The Jet defense is on the ball all day. The Jets are up, I believe, 9-3. And Atlanta and Matty Ice put together a tremendous drive. And on fourth and whatever, last play, Tony Gonzalez catches a touchdown. The Jets lose 10-7 or 10. Yeah, I think it's 10-7. Rex Ryan comes in the post game and he says we're out of the playoffs, which is a shame. He puts it all on the defense, only to find out that they're still not out of it. They go on and win, and they make the playoffs, and they go to the AFC Championship game. So this is not over by any step in the imagination, but the way this team has performed is just not giving us any confidence. But I will be rooting, I will be screaming, I'll be watching, and we got to hope. So check us out. I know this is a little bit subdued. We are the Takeoff. Like us, like this video, subscribe to it, make comments. If you were there yesterday, if you're going Thursday, let me hear about it. Tell me about it. Show me pictures. Show me video. You can follow us on Instagram at the Jets Takeoff is our Instagram handle. You could join our Facebook page. The Takeoff is the name of the Facebook page. You could email us at thejetstakeoff@gmail.com, or you could please subscribe to this video. The YouTube channel is the Takeoff. The YouTube account is the Takeoff. The YouTube channel is at the Jets Takeoff. Subscribe. You can Google it. You can Google Alex Faziali, like it, and hopefully we will be talking about a victory on Thursday. I'm going to do a quick video probably like Thursday morning or Wednesday evening just to give my predictions. But right now it's just a solemn day because reality now of the postseason is a long shot.